punishments were. And that's when I get into the third section of the overall case. Here's who they are. Here were their motives. Here's what could have happened. Here is their punishments, because that's where the key to the whole situation becomes, is their punishments. And I show how God's judgment is consistent. He continually has righteous judgment. The crime must fit the punishment, and vice versa. The punishment fit the crime. And so if you look at the punishments and you try to figure out the crime, it sounds very bizarre. And yes, it doesn't seem right, but Adam, he had to suddenly till the land for his food. He couldn't just go pick it off a tree anymore. Eve was, her punishment was increased pain in conception and childbirth. And the serpent was then made to be upon the ground and eat the dust. So everybody thinks of a snake, but we're looking at it from modern Western point of view. In the Bible, the serpent is sometimes referred to as Satan, and which is the Hebrew word for the adversary, the opponent. And Jesus refers to him, that old dragon, Satan, that ancient dragon. Dragon is the ancient term for what we now call dinosaurs. Dinosaurs is just a new word that we made up. It's more scientific, but dragon was an old word that was used for those kind of creatures. So and we do see dragons today, the Komodo dragon, and it crawls across its belly. It might have feet, but they're very short, almost like a Welsh corgi, just little short feet, and its tongue licks and eats the dust.
This is so fascinating, and you've found enough information that you have created what you're calling a paradox series. How many books will there be in the series?
So far, I have 2 that are completed. The second one, I went after people who read the first one and said they disagreed for this reason or for that reason. And I looked up different other theories online to see what people said. And so I took those, not contradictions, but those alternate theories, and I analyzed them biblically and theologically and took them apart and showed why they weren't right. They only had a superficial level of support biblically. Whereas mine at this point, with the second book, and not even counting what's in the third, I've got at least 1,200 to almost 2,000 passages, about 6 biblical types and patterns, and it just keeps mounting. And I'm stunned that there's this much evidence. And even one of the reviewers gave it a positive review, explaining that he was surprised at the amount of corroborating evidence that I was able to bring together.
This is just so fascinating. I can't, the way that you have described how this has all worked and the way that you've described the inspiration that caused this to happen, I mean, it's just phenomenal. And the whole idea behind the book is just so interesting. I know that we have at least tickled the brains of the people who are listening to our conversation right now, DB, and they're saying to themselves, where can I find a copy of this book? So how about we tell them? It's really simple. You just go to Amazon. Now, let me give you titles and let me give you names so that you can find the book. If you've never used Amazon, it's really simple. All you have to do is put www.amazon in your search feature at the top of your computer and click on it, and it'll take you right to the home page for Amazon. Now, what you're looking for is a big, empty, sort of a gray box that's a long rectangle. In that box, here's the title of the book, The Sin Paradox, Paradox, colon, the case against Adam, Eve, and the serpent, by D as in dog, B as in boy, Evans, Evans. Put that in your search feature, click on it, and the book will come right up. You look in the upper right-hand corner, and there are 2 words that are important there. They say, look here. If you click on those two words, the book will open electronically, and you'll be able to see the whole table of contents, and then you'll be able to read an excerpt from the book. Now, DB, some people don't want to go to Amazon because they perhaps don't want to buy books from Amazon, or they're a little intimidated by Amazon. Where else might they be able to find a copy of the book, The Sin Paradox?
The publishers of it, Life Rich, has a website where you can get it through them, liferich.com, and also Barnes & Noble. If they don't have it, you can order it through them, and other mainstream book houses do have it available to them. Some might have it on the shelf, you might have to order it, but it's out there in the mainstream. And then also you'll see the links to the other books on Amazon as well. Plus my website, you'll see the links to it.
Let's go ahead and give the listeners your website.
It's JMayer-Productions, and the way to spell that is JAM as in Mary, JAMAER-productions.com. And you'll see the links to the books. You'll see reviews of the Sin Paradox. You'll see its sequel, which is there, which is constantly under reconstruction because I'm always coming up with more stuff. And a couple of the other books I've written, one about doing gospel magic, another about how to find God in the things you do. And I have another book which I can't wait to finish, but I keep changing it, which is about Moses. There's constantly new books coming out, but all faith-based.
Your imagination and the inspiration that you're receiving to write these books, I think is so exciting, and I love it that you're calling this the Paradox series, because I think that's a perfect name for what you're talking about. Now, when the listeners become readers and they buy a copy of the book, whether it's an electronic copy or a physical copy, and they sit down with the book and they read it, probably not in one sitting. This, to me, seems like a book that I would read and I would have to think about before I read some more. So they will read the book from cover to cover. When they close that back cover, either electronically or physically, for the last time, for you, what is the main thing that you would like for that person to take away from the book?
God will answer your questions. A lot of people will read the book or read the Bible not understanding it and having questions about what does God mean here? What does God mean there? Ask the question. God gave you a brain. It's like in the show Inherit the Wind. God gave us a brain. It's what makes us different than all the other creatures. Question. Ask. I think it was Thomas Jefferson that said that God must more prefer our ability to reason than just blind faith. So question God, ask him to answer the question, and then just keep reading. Just keep reading the book, reading the Bible, and one day you might suddenly come across the answer. It might be from somebody you hear on television, might be from a passage in the Bible, from another book, or it just could be from a single whispered word to your soul in the middle of the night that causes you to have a great revelation of understanding of something. Wow. You never know where that inspiration will come from.
Wow. This has just been so interesting. It's been great talking about you. Thank you for being our guest today on Books on Air. It's just been a pleasure.
Thank you. I've enjoyed it. I love discussing this book, and the Bible is probably my favorite topic of discussion, and why I get in so much trouble, because everybody says don't talk religion or politics.
I'll tell you the truth. I can hear the passion in your voice, and I suspect that every one of our listeners can also hear the passion in your voice. And that, to me, is one of the most important things about an author, is to hear the passion about their work and the way that you're doing the research and the way that you're putting together. Good luck with your future books, and I hope that you and I will be able to talk again.
That'd be great.
Remember, listeners, The Sin Paradox by D.B. Evans on Amazon. You've been listening to the Books on Air podcast, brought to you on webtalkradio.net. You can also hear this podcast on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, and Apple Podcasts. I'm Suzanne Harris, and I hope that you'll join me for our next Books on Air podcast, because remember, you never know who's going to be here, and you really never know what we're going to talk about. Thank you so much for listening.